This is Unexpected with Hannah Love. In this podcast, you will gain a new perspective of how God loves you enough to call you to things that you couldn't have imagined for yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Q&A with Hannah and Shay.
Wow.
I came up with that when you were gone.
Wow.
You like it?
I liked it.
Okay. Now you can give a real intro.
That was nice, babe. Nice. Okay, and we're back, Hannah and Shay. I just thought it would be nice to end the year with a Q&A from Shay and I because we've been on a few episodes this year. Everyone has really enjoyed it. It seems like it's been engaging. And we've had lots of questions from people about marriage and faith and balance and all the things. And that is something that we talk about all the time. So we thought we might as well just put it out there and see the questions y'all had. So I'm excited to jump in. I haven't seen all of these. You haven't seen all of these?
I haven't seen any of these.
Are we going to pass these back
We
and
could
forth?
pass these back and forth. There's this first one says, how did you get so hot? I think that was my question for you. I'd forgotten that I did that.
Shay Mooney.
Yes, S. Mooney. Strange. All right. Do you want me to ask you the first one? And then I'm going to pass this back and forth.
Okay.
Do you know the gender of the next baby?
Drum roll, please.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. And I think we accidentally waited too long to announce. So we're just going to keep it a surprise.
Yeah.
We are horrible at surprises collectively as a family. So we're really close and we're like, we might as well just let everyone be surprised with this at the end. So, we're not going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised. So.
I hope we're not
wait.
surprised.
I know. Okay. So, yes, we know, but we're only weeks away, like three weeks away from baby. So, 4 weeks.
So we're going to wait.
4 weeks away from baby. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Now I get to ask?
Sure.
Okay.
Fire away. I'm ready.
Okie dokie. Let's see here. What are the most special and the most difficult things about being parents? I'm going to let you go with this.
Man, there's so many special things about being parents. I think one thing, I guess, in the spirit of talking about, a husband and wife's relationship, there is nothing that draws you closer than when you go through hard things with your children. Yeah. And honestly, just when you have kids, you know this already, but it is the most amazing thing, but it's also the most terrifying thing in the world, having kids. Yeah. It's the first time that you really have to think of somebody else before yourself. And obviously that is the, purpose when you get married, but there's just something different. I think, would you agree with that? It's very, very different. Obviously when you have your spouse and you have that person you love, it is, when Hannah and I got married, it was like, absolutely, I would do anything for this woman. There's something different when a baby comes into the picture, and you, especially as a dad, I can speak, on the dad side, there was just this thing that happened within me that was immediate, that I was like, I could say that I would die for you, at the beginning of our marriage, I could say that, but that's just like, kind of what you feel like you should do. You know what I mean? You hadn't, and also like, maybe others were farther along than I was at the beginning of our marriage. But as soon as we had Asher, it was like, I would have no problem jumping in front of a train to save my child. And it's just this thing that happens, and it's in our nature. And it was just a wild feeling. And it was like, for the first time, I genuinely have that conviction of like, I would literally die for this little baby, and also it happens like with you, not that I wouldn't die for you before, sure, but there's something that brings you together when you're parents and you're raising this child together. And I don't know, that is the most amazing thing, but it's also the scariest thing, because it's like, you're kind of worried all the time. Yeah. And, we've been through a lot, with accidents and, things that have happened physically and scares. And it's absolutely terrifying, but it also it has built our faith a lot. And I think that all of those things, to answer the question, it's both beautiful and terrifying, kind of all at the same time, but it is without a doubt the most amazing and fulfilling thing you could ever do in your life.
Yeah, it's like, it's the common purpose of raising our children. And I think the most special gift that we will have in the end is seeing the purposes of our children lived out one day, because God has great purposes for them. And so I think the greatest gift that we get is stewarding. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. But we get the gift of stewarding those things that God put in our children, and we get to call them out, and we get to speak life over them and be like, man, I see that in you. And you might think that it makes you like not fit in and stand out, and you're right, because God set you apart and God made you different that way. And you just like, that's what's going to be, that's the thing that's going to make you like impact the kingdom even more, because no one else is like that.
Yeah.
And that is so special. And it is, like you said, it's terrifying to have such responsibility.
Yeah.
Physically to care for your children, emotionally to hope that you don't wreck them. I mean, you and I have done a lot of therapy. Not that we that we had bad upbringings. We had great upbringings.
Yeah.
But I think that we've recognized that the more work we do for ourselves and for our marriage, then, you know, what's the saying? It's our ceiling is their floor. And I had the privilege of interviewing Kate Battistelli earlier in the year, and she's the one who originally said this to me, and I wrote it in the front cover of my Bible, and it's still there. And I told you, and for years now, that's kind of what we've lived by. So so it is scary, it is hard, but it is special, and it is that thing that, you know, in 30, 40, 50 years, you and I are going to look back and be like, man, what a life we've lived.
Yeah.
And
I think that's one of the most special things for me is what you just said, like in 50 years, looking back, there is no accomplishment that I have ever gotten. I'm looking over here on this beautiful piano you got me, looking at all of the awards that we've been so privileged to win. None of that compares to anything that I've done as a dad. And what's amazing is that all the things that I've built over like my career and whatever it might be, there's nothing that compares to what you build with your spouse. And when it, you know, talking about family and just the things that you're doing together, there's what I like to call, you know, equity in our family. Every time, every minute that you spend with your family, everything that you do, every sacrifice you make for your family, it might go unnoticed for a while, you know, by your kids or whatever it is. But every single thing that you do, I just imagine you're putting, you know, that a little bit more equity into your family and the things that you've built into your marriage. Like, it's just an amazing thing. And yeah.
In biblical terms, that's the fruit. Right?
Absolutely.
And I'm not just saying like the physical fruit or our children, but like the fruit of the planting and the plowing and the, you know, the hard work and the laborious work and the waiting.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but you see the fruit of the Spirit. You see the fruit of God and faithfulness and righteousness if you are sowing in all those places in your life.
Yeah.
Come through, and the ultimate manifestation of it, I feel like, is your family and your lineage. So
Yeah.
we really
dug into that question. That's all the time we have for today. What do we have next?
I'm going to let you pick.
Let's see. A lot of people asking about the baby.
Yes.
I mean, it is kind of the elephant in the room.
I'm in sweats, and I apologize, but not really, because it's the only thing that fits me right now.
This is a pretty good question just because I have an answer for it, and I'll make this quick. But Abby Howell asked, what's one thing y'all would have changed about your wedding if you could go back?
Which one?
Yeah, I would say, and we've talked about this before, we had two weddings. One, the day that we got engaged, I had, you know, my mom and dad, her mom and dad, everybody kind of waited. My sisters, they had a few wedding dresses for her to pick.
We had 3 dresses for me to choose from. My college pastor was there, and my only requirement for our engagement was that there be photographers. So also photographers there. You nailed it.
Well, thanks. Yeah. But we got married right then and there, about 15 minutes after we got engaged.
We sure did.
And that was the most special. It was just such a special day. And there's one thing that I could go back and do is not have the big wedding. I say that it's not a regret. It's not a regret at all. But that first small wedding was so special that we could have saved a lot of money by not doing a second wedding. Sure. And I think that, you know, the very short answer to this, I think that a lot of times you do your wedding for other people.
Right.
And I think that, and I see the trend happening a lot. People doing destination weddings, making these smaller weddings. I think that you should not do a wedding for anybody else but you guys.
Right.
And if anyone is offended by that, then they are not good friends and they're not being good family, in my opinion. I think that they should support that. If you want to do a wedding, if you want to go to the courthouse, I'm not saying we should just get rid of weddings. They're beautiful. But I just think that while making decisions for your wedding, maybe that is eloping. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a small wedding. Maybe it's a big wedding. That's great if that's your dream. But make sure it's something that you want, because if people that love you, say that they love you, if they're not okay with whatever decision that you make, then they better get it together, because they're not being good friends. They're not being good family. So that would be something I would change. I think you would probably agree.
Great answer. And
Thank you,
it's
babe.
Just what you said. And I will disclaim that I was never one who planned my wedding since the time I was 5. All I ever cared about was God sending me the right man, and he sure did that. So, sorry, my nose is running. I thank you. I thank you for answering that. That's
Absolutely.
perfect. If you want a big wedding, have the big wedding.
Yes.
100%. But also, if it's more in your lane and comfort level and price range to just do the small thing, do that for y'all.
Do it. You will not regret it.
You're not going to be spending the next 50 years with those people at your wedding.
No, you're not. This is going along, kind of piggybacking off of that. Okay. The Min Meg asked, what song makes you think of your spouse? There's several songs that make me think of Hannah, because, we wrote Speechless about that moment that Dan and I, that moment of you guys walking down the aisle. That was kind of how that song came to be. So I obviously always think of you. There is a song that I think about. There's 2 songs, actually. Okay. One would be Ordinary Magic, a song that maybe no one will ever hear, that I wrote with some good friends of mine, Benji Davis and Jesse Joe Dillon, I believe was the writer on that. And it just really talks about the ordinary moments that are magic. And we have those every day, because in there playing with the kids, I'm laying down, Abram's getting on my back saying, yeah, bull, yeah. There's these little moments that are just so amazing. And that's where I see God the most, is those smallest things that I don't even think about at the time. The second song would be the song that I sang to you at our big wedding, which was kind of per request.
Now that I think about it, it was a huge mistake. Didn't think that one through.
I barely got through the song. You definitely did not make it through the song.
Well, I didn't think that when I asked for him to sing it to me, I didn't think that would mean that the wedding planner would pull me out in a chair sitting in front of 300 people by myself, just with you singing to me. And it's the most uncomfortable I may have ever been.
It was. But it was a really special moment.
Beautiful, though.
Yes, I know what you mean, though. It was very, I didn't know you were going to be that close either. I thought I'd be able to close my eyes and, unplug. But there was a song that I wrote with Jimmy Robbins. It was just me and Jimmy, and basically cried throughout the whole thing. It was, it's about Asher and, finding out that we were pregnant and all of these things. And the second verse, I guess I could quote that. It was, 2 pink lines changed our lives on the bathroom floor was one of the lines. There was a lot of very intimate.
It's the story of
our meeting and of our life.
Our life.
Yes, and it's called "I Told You So." Yeah. And
maybe the world will hear it one day.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll record it and we'll just put it out, and just for your podcast listeners. Wow. We'll put it out on Hannah Love Airways. Yeah. But yeah, that would be, I know that was 3 answers. But I want to ask you this one. Is it your turn? I've already answered a million of them, so I'm going to ask you this question.
I was just going to say, and this isn't necessarily like makes me think just of you, but like it's a special one. There's 2 really special ones in my catalog, and that is When I Pray for You. Yeah. And that one gets me every time.
Which we wrote when you were pregnant with Asher. Yeah.
And then My Side of the Fence. And I will never forget that you came home after writing that with Benji, and you played it for me. And I'm like, I like to think that I'm the best litmus test, because if I cry, it's a hit. I'm like, if I cry, it's a good song. And I'm like pretty picky. So he played it for me, and I was postpartum, maybe 4 or 5 months postpartum. So again, not in a great place. And he sang that song to me, and I just remember tears rolling down my face.
Kids are wondering why we're crying in here. We actually, me and Benji, that was a two-way right. Benji and I wrote that song.
My clothes on.
Okay, buddy, I love you.
Love you.
And then we'll go to Miss Susan's to get our present.
Okay.
Everyone is giving us so many presents.
Is anyone gonna nap today?
Okay.
You know, not a nap day. Not a nap day.
It's not a nap day.
It's fine.
One of the questions we have had asked is, do we have help? And help has arrived.
Help has arrived.
So that's why our children are going to go to our neighbors. They're not just going by themselves.
They're not going by themselves. But to finish answering that question, that song that probably should have been my first answer because that is probably my favorite song that I've ever written. And a lot of our fans, that's like a cult classic, if you will. You know, it wasn't a single. My Side of the Fence. My Side of the Fence.
Yeah.
And When I Pray for You, but My Side of the Fence has always been my favorite song that we've ever put out. I think. And we wrote that obviously about you and in our life, but we actually wrote that in the Nolensville house.
Yeah.
We wrote that in the basement. I don't know if you knew that.
I remember being in such a dark place and you singing the words to the song about like, yeah, I've seen the sights and I've done this and I've done that, but you know, nothing compares to you. And I'm like a shell of a mom that's like hasn't slept in months and just like, I don't know, something about it my heart needed to hear and I just wept. It's really sweet. And I'm not a crier, but apparently my pregnancy hormones have really reached their peak. It's time for the baby to go.
Yes.
I can't handle much more.
You got to
of
get
this.
out of here. All right. This was a question that for you that this one won't be as emotional. How many kids would you like to have and would you ever consider homeschooling?
This is not a good question to ask me right now.
Hey, I know you're about to have a child, but how many more of those things would you like to have?
You're asking this for you, aren't you?
No, for one thing, I will quickly answer. 4 kids might as well be 1 billion kids at this point. But I'm not going to say whatever is in the plan for us. That is what's going to end up being. So I'm not going to say. I'd be dumb to say that we're done having kids.
Right.
But I also we might be, and we might not be.
Okay, how about this? I don't think we're planning on having any more in the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
The near future.
That's
Right?
a good answer.
That's a good answer.
And would you ever consider homeschooling? Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Let's get into it. No, I'm kidding. We don't have to go too far into that.
Yeah.
But yes, we absolutely would, and is a definite possibility for the future. I think for our family, the way that, being on the road and whatever it might be, going back and forth from Arkansas, it would be very awesome. But we kind of have to get that set up in a way. We want to have somebody that can help us with that before we do any of that.
Right.
But all that being said, I actually homeschooled up until 5th grade, and I loved it. And look at me now.
Look at you now.
Everyone's re-enrolling in school. Like, oh God, we kid.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. My mom was a teacher.
Yeah.
And so it has been funny to like listen to us parent through a few things because you're like, well, I was homeschooled and I didn't go to college. And I'm like, well, my mom was a teacher and I never missed a day, you know?
And I did, I went to school after 5th grade, or halfway through 5th grade, I went to school. And
Listen,
both of them
life
were
is
good
its own
experiences.
education.
Yeah. I also went to public school and private school. I kind of I did all of them.
You've done all of it.
Yeah. And so I would say that, the way that we do schooling nowadays and the way that a lot of people are thinking about school, and I'm not going to go into that because I could go down the rabbit hole, so I won't.
I think
But
they probably want us to. If we're being
yeah, well,
honest.
guess what? I'm diving in. I think going to school for 8 hours a day is insane. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So everyone's like, hold on, what?
You can't just leave us.
Well, I'm going to leave it at that because we have a lot more questions to get to. And yes, our kids do, Asher at least goes to school for 8 hours a day, which I feel like is a crazy thing and will not always be the case. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
There we go. Let's see. If you ever need social media help with your podcast, I'd love to chat. You guys are amazing. Well, Blair, we might need you. We might need you one of these days. After watching this video, it's just like, you guys need some help, clearly. No, and we do have a little bit of help.
We do.
I say we. You have a little bit of help. I am no help. Let's see here.
You are a big help. You're my tech.
Do you want to find one of these for me, or did I just answer it? It's your turn.
Hey, you're being a question hog over there.
I know. I like asking you questions. Here's an easy one, babe. Favorite kind of Christmas cookie?
No, I just polished off. Did you hear Ames earlier? He goes,
Right now,
"Mommy."
all of them, the ones that are here.
Ames goes, "Mommy, what happened to all those cookies that were there on that plate?" And I was like, "What?
Huh? What are you talking about?
I ate all of them." Me and Abram.
Yeah. You and Abram, you and that
Abram,
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
The
good
baby wanted
excuse.
the cookies. They were sugar cookies and they were delicious.
I bet they were.
Actually, Gabby Barrett sent them, and I was gonna make a video of us baking, but I didn't. But Gabby, thank you. They were great.
This is a good question because it's a question, and also I'm going to make a statement here that I feel like is true for every parent. Always, like each kid has this.
Okay.
What has been the little one's favorite toy? So, toys come and go, but I would say the one constant that all of our kids have had a consistent thing is there's always one baby that sticks around.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like their favorite.
Yeah, like they're lovey, they're stuffed.
They're lovey, they're stuffed animal, whatever you want to call it.
They're all jelly cats.
All Jellycats, great company. Shout out Jellycats. If you use Han and Shay discount, that's not true. I wish we had a Jellycat. We should go after Jellycat.
should.
If Mr. Cat's watching, we would love a sponsorship. But it's been amazing to watch because Asher's was at first the moose.
Goose the moose.
Yeah,
and Doggy.
Goose the moose, which I think that actually CMT didn't they sent that.
gave him
So shout out to CMT, Leslie, and all of you guys over there. And wonderful people at CMT that gave him that stuffed animal because he hung out with Goose the Moose for a good 4 years. He's still around. He still has him.
Well,
He's somewhere. Did we give that? Did we give that one?
No.
Oh, we lost him.
We had an incident at 2 years old,
Yeah.
and we came home without him in the shopping cart, and that's the last time I ever let anyone. That was my big learning lesson.
Did we get a new Goose the Moose?
We got a new Goose
Yeah.
the Moose because Asher was 2, and he knew it was.
He knew it was different.
He knew it was different.
It smelled different.
He never loved him the same. Like he loved him, but he wasn't fully accepted into the fold.
Yeah.
And actually, that's where I learned a good mom lesson of never, ever, ever let your kids take their favorite lovey into a store or in a shopping
Yes.
cart.
Honestly,
They can go in the car with us, but that's where we end it. They have to stay in the car seat when we get out of the car.
we haven't done this, but putting an air tag in one of those in the stuffies
Could be
would be a pretty good move. I'm sure there's something that might be safer. I think the air tags are pretty safe. I don't think they can swallow air tags. They're big enough. Anyways, Ames has Brown Baby. Brown Baby is still
Another
around.
doggy.
He's
brown.
got about 50. Let's be honest. Ames is the baby hog.
Yeah,
He loves stuffed animals, and it's pretty precious. And then Abram has his number one is Monkey, Mr. Monkey. And then he has a couple other ones he doesn't really mess with, but we just recently, yesterday.
No, today. You gave it to him.
Well, I gave it to him today. Got it yesterday. Got him this stuffed animal pig because correlating with the stuffy conversation, each of your kids will always have like a favorite animal, and you can kind of like each kid is going to correlate with like an animal. Abram is 100% pig, and it kind of started with he really started getting into Peppa, and the way he says pig is hilarious. Pig, baba, pig.
Real country accent.
That's how you want. That's how you know.
It comes from.
That's how you know he wants to watch Peppa Pig and
he'll
have a
say,
bottle. Pig, baba. And so, but it's just so funny. And then Asher's has always been kind of that doggy stuck around for a long time, which I think
We're really original.
I think Abby Smyers
Aunt Abby.
Aunt Abby got him doggy, and that's still and doggy is misplaced at the moment, but he's here somewhere because I saw him recently.
Had to.
Yeah. But anyways, if you want to get somebody a good gift, I do think Jellycats are such a good one because it's kind of their first bond is like something that is there
Our
always.
Kids sleep with their babies every night.
Yeah. It's
So,
fantastic.
it's
And
really
Hannah's got hers.
Got my
And it is sweet because Ames lets us borrow them, and Ames has started to make up things that is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the pig last night, he really wanted me to take him to our room, and so he told me, he goes, "Daddy, I would love to have pig in here." He goes, "But my babies, they do not behave when a new baby gets into the bed." They do not behave. So he started to come up with some pretty good phrases. But that was a good question, though. I feel like that is when you have kids, that's like something to be prepared for. And if you're looking for a good gift, even if you think they might have a lot of them, you never know the ones that's going to stick.
That's true.
Because
It is
Asher
fun
had
to
like 20
see.
babies that people had gifted him, and Aunt Abby's doggy was the one that stuck.
I actually am about to get online to like purchase the new babies.
It's an important
But we
important
won't
thing.
know what the baby picks until
We're back. We had to cut that real quick because we accidentally said the gender of the baby.
we were doing so good.
We're doing so good, but that's all right. We'll edit that out.
It's fine.
And we're back.
Can I see these?
Yeah.
I'm
My
gonna ask
question
you a
is, how do you
question.
stay in sync with each other? Shay is on the road or doing the voice.
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna let you kick that off.
Okay. You know, it's really difficult. Anyone who's has a job, you know, whether it's like military or, you know, maybe travel for your job, whatever that might be. I think it's intentionality. You know, I would say you just have to be intentional. There's going to be times when it's like, you know, especially with all the kids, we are always in communication. And I think just checking in, I mean, we're always talking. I mean, phones are a, you know, detriment to society, but at the same time, it's really nice to be able to just have a check-in. I can't imagine it being like the 1600s and, you know, I'm going off and I'll be back in 8 months, you know, and writing letters to each other. But yeah, I think it's just communication, and
It's different now that we have kids.
it is different. Yeah.
For me, I will say, and I'll put this out there too. I've never been the type that was like needy.
Yeah, you're not.
necessarily, Or high maintenance. Like it's always been very much like you're on the road and I'm out and about doing my own thing. Like I haven't needed a lot of your like time and attention to feel like we're okay.
Yeah.
We just check in when we check in. But then when you have kids, it's all of a sudden like, listen, I have a lot of small people that need me quite literally 24/7. And so you go to work, honey, enjoy it. I miss you. We miss you. But I'm just going to be over here like taking care and like holding down the fort until you get back.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and also we've been married closer to 10 years than not. So
Yeah.
I think it's less like of a romantic, like not that I don't miss you.
No,
I miss your presence in this house, and I miss your help, and we all miss Daddy.
but this, I equate it to when you drop off your kids at school,
Yeah.
and it's like really sad when they stop crying, you know, but it also like, you know, they say psychologists are like, that means that they're very secure at home. They know you're coming back.
Yeah.
They know, I mean, it really is the same thing with in a marriage when you trust each other. And it's like,
Great analogy,
I
babe.
think, thank you. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of psychology lately. I think that it's one of those things that, you know, and we were not always like this. You know, I feel like we did a lot of growing. We put in a lot of work. And it hasn't always been like this. But I feel like you and I both, especially early on before we got married, were in kind of, both of us had went through a little bit of toxic relationships where on both sides, like there was a lot of jealousy, and it's just like, that makes you jealous. And I think by the time we both got into especially in our healthy place, jealousy was just kind of like,
That was
never
really,
something that I struggled
that
with.
was never really a thing for me though.
No.
Like I was in a really bad, toxic,
Yeah.
abusive relationship, but jealousy was not
Yeah,
the thing for me. But I also disassociate. That's like one of my
for sure.
survival that we worked out in counseling.
And I think we both kind of have that view on marriage that it's like, look, we're going to put in the work and we're going to do these things. But I also think that I just feel like when you're in a relationship, and not even if it's just a marriage, like if you're just in a relationship, if there's any kind of jealousy or like worry, does this person want to be with me? You got to figure that out, because that's minor league stuff. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just kind of like, dude, I don't want to, if they don't want to be with you,
right.
why would you want to be with them? Don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time.
And so if you're worried about that, then it's kind of like, and I'd seen a question on there of like, how did you guys know that you're meant to be? I feel like that was an element of it where it was just like, man, this person loves me and wants to be with me. And even though I pursued you really hard, when we got in a relationship, it was like, this is it. I feel like that's a part of that comfort, and not feeling like complacent in your marriage. That's not what I mean at all. But it's just like this, it's security.
It's security.
It's like, hey, I want to be with you. And if that ever changes one day, like that is, and it's not, like if that ever changes one day, I hope that you would have that conversation with someone like, hey, whatever this is, like, let's fix it. But I feel like there's no point and just feeling anxious and
No.
being worried all the time of like,
Again, a waste of everyone's
it's a waste
time.
of everyone's time. And
And
so
that
that
was-
we got to that place in a good way where it's just like,
Well, I've told that
I don't need to talk to you
story.
all the time, you know?
I've told that story often about how, you pursued me. I was like not having it. But there was something in me that recognized immediately when we had that conversation, which is what stressed me out, is I was like, oh crap. There was something in me that recognized that you would cherish me and that you would like protect my heart at all cost. And I like didn't know you, but there was something, and I would say, actually, if we want to get spiritual, that my spirit recognized your spirit. And like my spirit recognized the spirit person in you that you hadn't even become yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely not. Yeah.
but
Future me.
but it was like, it was like my spirit knew future you, and I just knew innately that you would take care of my heart. And that's kind of what freaked me out. I was like, oh crap. This is not what this wasn't my plan. This isn't what I pictured. He's not even my type, like all these things. And when people ask how you know, like that's how you know. Is
Yeah.
you know for a fact. You don't know how you know, but you just know that this person will take care of your heart for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And just wanting to, I feel like there's other things now looking back. It's just like, you're the only person on planet Earth that I want to grow old with.
Yeah.
No matter what we go through. Like, I know that you're going to be there when I'm real old.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be there when you're old, whether you like it or not.
We're going to be annoying each other.
Oh, just messing
tickling
and
each
going.
other.
But yeah, I think that's just an amazing thing. There's no better feeling on planet Earth than being secure in your marriage. Of just, I remember that was like,
And it was a novel feeling when you come out of something that's so toxic.
yeah,
Just be like, man, like, I don't want to see your phone. I don't need
Yeah.
to see your phone. I don't know. There's something icky about people that like
that
share Facebooks,
yeah,
and,
I don't.
like,
That's a whole other conversation. I don't want to
whole-
offend anybody else who has that, but like, yeah, if you feel the need to do that, it becomes
like for
we'll save that for another conversation because I
will.
feel like that's a little taboo
It
for
is.
some people. But I will say,
But people have asked about boundaries.
strongly that's a little wild.
It is.
a little wild.
Speaking of boundaries, like, my password. If
Yeah.
you needed something in my phone, get in there.
Yeah,
You can go through my emails. Like,
Yeah.
I have nothing to hide from you. And same for you. And
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever single time ever asked you to look at your phone.
No.
Because I don't, not to say that I don't care, but like,
you'd find
If that's where
stuff
we
in there
were-
of my friends that you would want to see.
yes.
But you have to get to that place where it's like, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
You can have it all.
Yeah.
Get in there. And then it's just when you get to that place where you're really worried about it, it's like, it's a deeper conversation.
That's a deeper conversation.
It's a deeper conversation.
Do you have the name picked out?
No, we're not.
No. I mean, a lot of people have asked about the struggles of traveling, being on the road, away from family. And someone did ask, I don't know where it is, but they were like, do you have a boundary or a limit with like travel for Shay? We don't, but I will say this. I don't know why. And I actually think it's that trip you took to Europe. You came back and you were just like so depressed and you were like, it was so dark. It was also around the holidays, so you were missing a lot. But you came home and you were like, never again. And it was that
Never again.
3-week mark. 2 weeks is really too much, but 3
Yeah.
weeks is over the top. And so I think we have both literally discussed, like, it can't be.
Yeah, we'll have to figure. It wasn't like
It
it wasn't
like
a thing like Hannah was putting this like, hey, you can do it. If there was a situation where like I had to
Sure.
do something, then we
Obviously.
discussed like maybe y'all need to come out here with me because I can't do that on my own,
Yeah,
for
it's
so long.
depressing.
It is very depressing, and I did not realize how much of a homebody I was until I got to a good place in my marriage.
Yeah.
I think, and it was like it fully became like being at home was where I recharge, and it is where I would like to remain at most points of the day. And I just don't. Obviously, I like going out and doing things, but like I'm really happy being around my family, and that's why the best case scenario for us is like to be close to our kids, but also like have a little bit of a break, every once in a while. That's why we're gonna keep that in mind while when we do build a house one of these days, of like, all right, we need to have space that is near, but also a little far. So, but all that to be said, I think that 2-week mark is too long. We had to do that for The Voice finale, and that was that was really tough 2 weeks. But we did do a, Dan and I really, we did it.
Australia before.
We did it pretty good there. I feel like where we were, active and. Dan and I hung out a lot, and that really, really helped. Rather than just me staying in my hotel room, because I will absolutely do that. I would just stay in the hotel room for 100 hours.
I think it helped for me too. I want to say that was in the summer.
Yeah, it was.
And so I was able to like get out with the kids.
Yeah.
And again,
The wintertime, that was the most depressing 2 weeks. We'll have to do a whole download on that at some point. It was a really dark couple weeks in Europe. It was just, there's a lot of. It was stuff that I had just never experienced before, really. Like it's a different world over there in some places, and it was pretty gross. But that's for another time. That was in the wintertime. It got dark at like 3:30, and I couldn't get used to the time change. And so I would go to sleep at like 8 a.m., and I would sleep till like 3:30, and then we play the show at like 10:30, and I could not sleep. Yeah, and so when she was going to bed, I was waking up. It was a horrible 2 weeks, and I think I saw the sun once, and it was just...
He
the
came
vitamin
home
D
and I had never seen
devastating.
him, so I mean, you were pretty.
It was dark.
Yeah,
it was absolutely dark. Literally, physically, and spiritually, it was very, very dark. Yeah. So, but as far as like boundaries, we are very, very blessed nowadays that most of our tours, it's Thursday through Saturday, and I'm home by Sunday. So it's really not. It's very easy to do that. I mean, sure, it's like, it's not without its challenges. Like I do miss, once you're kind of in that routine, I do miss the boys, and you feel like you miss a lot.
It's usually during like T-ball season too, which is a bummer.
But in the grand scheme, it's like, what, if I was working a, 9 to 6 or, 8 to 5, whatever, being gone all day long. When I am home, I get to be home all day. And in the grand scheme, I'm probably able to spend a lot more time with the kids than I would be if I had, my whole construction job, working 10 to 13 hours a day. So I am very grateful for that. But early on, it was very difficult. There was years we played 250 shows in a year, and it was brutal. But thankfully, we don't have to do that anymore. So, yeah. Thank you. That was it. Is that our last question, or are we going to do one more?
No, I thought we do. I mean, there's so many.
There's so many good ones. We might have to do a 2-parter,
Could. Let's see. Do you see anything in here?
Let's see. Because I've answered a million, so what do you need to do? NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
NSYNC. But it's because my first concert that I ever went to was NSYNC.
Nice. Nice.
As our baby cries.
Advice to someone in mid-30s, waiting on God's person for them.
Something that I've always thought about is like in the waiting, which I literally just did an episode on like the preparation in the waiting and things that are worth the wait. But sometimes thinking about even that season for me, not in my 30s, but just the waiting, I always held on to the fact that God is preparing this other person for me right now. Wherever they are, whatever they're doing, there's something in it that is preparation for them to become the husband that I'm going to need them to be. Yeah. And same vice versa. And so I would always think to myself, like, there's a purpose in this wait. And we even pray it over our kids. And, like, I pray for their future wives and that they're being prepared. Their hearts are being prepared, that they're in families that are preparing them to be the wives that our boys need for them to be one day, and that hopefully we're doing our jobs in preparing them. So that is one thing that I have held on to. And I actually just read a passage I want to say it was in Peter this week, and I thought about those who were waiting for their future spouses. And I will have to go and dig that up and like get back to you, girl, personally, because I remember seeing that question. I was like, dang, that would be such a good like biblical reference for the wait, because it is hard. Yeah.
I have one piece of advice, I guess. Okay. In thinking of kind of what you did, you became who God wanted you to be in that season.
Right.
By the time I was not quite there yet, God had really worked on your heart. You'd become that, and that's what I was attracted to and knew that I had to be better if I was going to be that. But I just knew that you were the person. And I don't think that if you weren't ready, if you weren't that person, I think it would have not been the same. But I think that, when you're waiting on, God's person for you, you also have to become God's person for them.
Yeah.
I think that you have to also be ready, because you can't just be like, well, I'm not fully going to become who I'm supposed to be until I meet my spouse. That cannot be the case.
No.
That cannot be the case. You can't.
Someone is not going to fix you.
No, it is not. You need to go into that knowing like, hey, listen, I know marriage is an important thing and you become one, but you got to be who you're going to be. Yeah. And you need to become that. And that is what's going to really attract the person that God has for you. And I always have loved the mental picture of a triangle where it's, you've got, you and, your future spouse, whoever it is, and you're going up toward this triangle and that being, God.
The closer you get to God.
The closer you get to God, the closer you get to each other. And I love that. And I feel like that also reigns true when you're waiting on somebody. Yeah. So the closer you get to God, the closer you will be to finding that person,
That's good, babe.
Yeah. Let me look through here. Let's see here. There's a lot of good. All right, this was the last page of the ones that you screenshotted. A practical. Okay, this is kind of going to be a long answer, but practical ways to prioritize marriage when spouse is gone a lot at work. Well, depending on, when you say gone a lot for work, it's like, is it every day, like an everyday job? Or are they going out of town? I think no matter what that is, I think that the answer is in the question. I think that you need to find practical ways to prioritize. I think that it's like, whether that is, hey, once a week, we're going to sit down and do this. And I think that sometimes it can be a little overwhelming thinking of that, trying to do that, especially if you have kids. I don't know if you have kids or not.
Have good intentions, but follow through is not always there.
But I think that having the things in place, it also is like, even if we can't do it, we try to find other ways that are like, all right, hey, let's go, do this. But depending on if you have kids or not, that might change your answer a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it's like, sometimes it's not going to be realistic if you don't have help or whatever the circumstance is, it's going to be tough, But I think that communicating and making sure that like, hey, just so you know, like, I want to do this and I want to prioritize our marriage. But you're just going to go through seasons sometimes when you got kids. That's like, hey, look, let's try to do whatever it is. I think that no matter what your situation is, there's at least one time that you can sit down and give your spouse like an uninterrupted, 30 minutes, hour, just even try to do something small. And those usually turn into things that are bigger.
In my mind right now, I'm going through the algorithm of like the stuff that the feed has given me about, from Dr. Peterson or, from whoever, just talking about the practicalities of a relationship, of a marriage, and also children. And the children's dynamic with the parents we should never put our children above our marriage. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a part of this question, if we're being honest, because if you're wanting to prioritize the marriage, then that means there's
other
kids.
Priorities. Yeah. Priorities. I said that's so weird.
You did. Very, very proper.
Priorities.
But what I was going to say is that, especially because right now we have, boys, and I think it's really important that you are showing the boys how to be not just a leader, but a husband one day, and how they are to treat a wife one day, right? And I think that some of that is, hey, boys, you don't talk to your mom that way. She's my wife. Or, you don't do this because that's your mother. But it's very much like keeping in mind for our children the place that our relationship, that our marriage holds. And that is God here, then our marriage, because you and I are a team. And the boys talk about this a lot. They're like, are you on daddy's team? And I'm like, I'm always on daddy's team. We're a unit. Like, when they look at us, it should be one. Like, they're going to get the same answer from no matter who they're coming to. Yeah. Granted, we don't always know that, and we have to get back on the same page. But we, like, collectively are one, and our kids, that's the overall message that we want our kids to see. Otherwise, if I'm over here putting the kids before you, like, that's just giving them an unhealthy expectation for the future. And honestly, it's going to create entitled like brats one day.
Yeah.
So when you come home, like we will kiss. They see us like hugging each other. We do dance parties. I feel like maybe we're going to be like one day they're going to be like, Mom and Dad are pretty fun.
I will say to end this because I feel like we have gone on a little long, but for the practical ways, I think that another thing that date days, like I think just dreaming together is a great way to, but I also think that you need to put in things in place like that of like, hey, let's just go do something. I don't think you have to so much like plan it because then it feels like hey, we have to go do this, and it sometimes it can feel like a burden when neither one of you really want to go do it. I think the most important thing is like, hey, dream together, like do something together, sit down and talk. I think this is a good way that we do it, just be able to sit down and to be able to talk, but we dream a lot together. And that is no matter what that is, whatever that looks like for you, I think sitting down, whether that's dreaming of having kids for the first time or not having, traveling, whatever it might be, I think just doing it together
Even if it's at the
is fun.
end of the night.
Yeah, for
And, like,
10 minutes.
For example, this week, I think it was Ames came in, or maybe Asher, I don't know, but we finally got everyone to bed, and that's like a marathon, and you're just kind of like sitting there fried in your bed next to each other, not even talking, just like silence, and like we did it, and everyone's in their bed, no one's asleep, but they're all tucked in. And then one of the kids comes in, and you literally said, "Hey, bud," I don't even remember which one, but you're like, "Hey, buddy, Daddy hasn't got to have any time with Mommy today, just the two of us." And you just said it, matter of fact.
Yeah, I told him, hey, look, I'm going to give your mama some sugars. I told him that.
Wow.
I said, I'm going to kiss her, and you need to get out of here because this is my time with mama. And I think it's important, for them to know that you are my priority and that our time is important. And to not like try to baby that or try to sugarcoat that of like, but I will be right up after, I'll be there for you and come snuggle, whatever it is. Like, it's not, those things aren't inherently bad, but like, hey, these are men that we're raising here. Right. We're not raising little girls, it's like, I can't say that my answer would be a little different if I had a little girl. I don't know. But like for these young men that I'm trying to raise, of like, hey, this is my time with my wife and I am going to protect this. So get out of here,
Even
and I think that's,
we're not even talking. We usually don't even have like the TV on. We're just sitting there.
Yeah. It's just important that you protect those times. And to wrap up this question, whether you're protecting it from your kids, I know that sounds a little silly, but like whether you're protecting that time that you have from your kids and being like, hey, I love you. This is going to be, later. This is my time with Mommy. Or if it's kind of protecting, your time with your spouse from other things like TV time or whatever it might be. Friends, no matter what it is, other plans that you have, just like, I think that it's important to protect that time. No matter how small that time is, you would be blown away what like 10 minutes a night of like dreaming together and just talking together, what that'll do for your marriage. Because it didn't have to be a lot. I get it. A lot of times you're with your spouse a lot, and it's like, there's times when Hannah and I have spent literally all day together. And so it's really hard to ask questions like, hey, what did you do today? Well, I don't know. I was doing what you were doing right next to you the whole day. So and then you can kind of debrief of like, hey, that was so funny, like reminding each other of like looking through pictures or videos of the day. Because, we film and take pictures all day. And just going through that and dreaming with your spouse, I think is just so important. And it doesn't have to be dreams of the future. It can be, looking at the past of things that you've built together.
Dreaming about things for your children. Like
yes.
But just doing it together and
Yes.
making sure that your kids see that as a priority and making sure that the other person feels that. Because I think one of my love languages is time.
Yeah.
Like I told you the other day, we were coming back from a Christmas party and it was a long drive home, and I had the thought in my head, and it kind of was funny to me, but I was like, I can't wait for our car ride back.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, how lucky am I? Like, I love my husband so much. I enjoy our time together so much that I'm looking forward to a 50-minute car ride in the dark where neither of us can see, because
it's a real problem.
But I was like, dang, we get to, and what did we do? We like laughed all the way home and just we were just together.
Because if there's one thing about us, we're funny.
We're
We are funny.
Y'all probably don't know this about me, but
Like no one would know it.
I'm quiet funny. Shay's
Yes.
publicly pretty
She's quiet
hilarious.
funny, and I'm quite funny.
Shay can be paid for
Did you
it.
see? Did you hear that one? That was a good one.
That was a good one.
You're quiet funny, and I'm quite funny.
Oh, wow. Man.
Yes.
But,
Yes, pretty good. Pretty
Okay.
good. I think we should wrap it up.
we should wrap
We've went
there.
on and on, but babe, thank you for coming on my podcast today.
Oh,
And
a real
yes,
pleasure.
thank you for dropping in the area. But I love you, and I love getting to dream with you.
It's been a great year. It's been a wild
It's been an amazing year, and I don't know when you're.
talk about our year, but
No, we'll talk about that some other time. But I don't know when you're putting this out exactly. But I would assume pretty soon. So I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I think we should, maybe come back in a couple months and do the next Q&A. Maybe after the baby.
I don't know. Maybe before the baby, because
Maybe before the baby. Maybe we'll reveal the baby on the next one.
mom brain is real right now.
Yeah.
Like congestion, all the things
Yeah.
y'all can probably hear. But
So we'll just kind of see it. We'll take it by ear. But thank you guys for listening. I hope you have a wonderful Merry Christmas
Merry Christmas and
and a Happy New Year.
You know, someone asked if we sang together, and I was like, we don't.
That's a lie. We do all the time, just not on
I enjoy
not on
singing,
film.
and I do it through the house, and then Shay will kindly try to like harmonize with me.
Now, Hannah's. I will say this.
But
This has been the last thing I say. You are an amazing singer. The only thing that she's not good at, she sings in tune. She does do a few key changes
a few
throughout the song, and it'll just come out of nowhere.
not
But
supposed
she's.
to be a key change.
But whatever key you're in, she has perfect pitch in those keys.
here.
She doesn't know quite what keys that she's in,
This is
and
true.
she likes to do multiple. And she's a chameleon. She's a key chameleon. All right, thanks for listening, guys. We are funny.
We are.
We are. We got it going on.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you.
We don't have to. That's
Thanks for doing
the
the
awkward
Q&A.
kiss at the end. Okay, see ya.
Thank you so much for listening today. If this episode has encouraged you, please feel free to share the show with your family and friends. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world today, and my hope is that this show is a candle in the dark.